Hello and welcome to another fantastic edition of Retrovision. Over to Emily. And the crowd goes wild.
Ish.
It's our own equivalent of an opening act as we welcome Europe for what was, to be honest, the annual Eurovision Song Contest from the Point Theatre Dublin in Ireland, where they were hosting it for the fourth time in 5 years. Obviously, 1993 was Mill Street, but then Point Theatre. Now, I've got a panel of guests ready to take a trip down memory lane with me this evening. First of all, sporting some rather attractive trousers there, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening from cool Denmark.
Like
Hey.
it. Can we guess who you've decided to dress as this evening?
I have, of course, dressed as the best Danish entry ever, Curly Kai.
Hey! And we look forward to getting in contact with directory inquiries later. And Joe, good evening to you.
Hello, Tom, and everyone out there.
And who are you dressed as this evening?
Well, I am doing a homage to the, 16 entrants that all decided to wear black out of 25, particularly the lovely Şebnem Paker from Turkey in her little black dress.
And a very good evening to our opening act, Emily.
Hello, good evening, Europe, as they always say.
And who are you dressed in homage to this evening?
Well, actually, this is the very top I wore when I was in the audience in 1997. So I still have it. I know. And if you look very carefully, when we kept getting the 12 points from the UK, you can see me and the little group I was with all going, yeah. So you see the feathers. I had worn it for years, but I couldn't throw it out. So here it is.
Oh,
I didn't have it. I didn't couple it with jeans at the Eurovision though. So
I am so jealous. Now, also, it wouldn't be ESC Fan TV without welcoming. It wouldn't be Retrovision without welcoming Andy. Good evening, Andy.
Good evening, Tom. Good evening.
And
Good evening, Europe.
who did you come dressed as?
Well, I came dressed as a very famous British pop mogul who was responsible for the win in 1997. I've come as Jonathan King, and I'm appearing from behind bars.
Yeah. It's an interesting. Well, at least you're waving a Union Jack. Do you know what, Andy? I fear for your eyes more with those glasses. I think it might be better if you just know. Just know.
What?
No, just go get changed. I think
all the effort.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
I think
that's it. I'm off.
I think, high standards and just right. Speaking of high standards, it wouldn't be ESC Fan TV without welcoming my co-host. It's Stuart.
Hi Tom, how are you?
I'm really good, Stuart. Stuart, you need to turn your camera on.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realise. Sorry, Tom. Just 1 second. Let me flick the switch. There we go. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Jesus. Oh, hello everyone. Hello Eurovision.
You're in your weekend dress again.
Well, this bitch is back.
Is it any guess as to who you have come dressed as this evening then, Stuart?
Darling, can't you tell?
I've got a feeling, well, you've always been a prima donna in my eyes, Stuart. So, Alla Pugacheva by any chance?
The woman, the queen that should have won Eurovision 1997, Alla Queen Pugacheva.
Okay. Well, I have to say, guys, you've made a fantastic effort. Now, can anyone guess who I've decided to come dressed as this evening?
it's a tough one.
Yeah, I thought it might have been like Philip Schofield or something in the boom cupboard in the 90s.
I almost just want to say like generic 90s boy band.
It is generic
90s
boy band, but who were the generic 90s boy band of the night, by the way?
That must be
Oh,
Ronan Keating, of course.
It is. Ronan Keating of Boyzone. Probably the most famous music star I think I've known to present Eurovision in kind of like the UK and Ireland, I think is probably the best way to put it. Obviously, because we've had Sakis Rivas from Greece, obviously Manzemelo presented for Sweden, and Alsu presented for Russia. But Ronan did bring a sense of Eurovision coming up to date in the 1990s. And obviously they provided us with the interval act as well. Now, in line with a lot of 90s shows, you know, they have like these silly little rounds and things, you know, like Big Breakfast and everything. And they had names for these silly features and everything. Anyway, this one is dedicated to Michelle. I thought we'd get straight down to business. This round is called But You're My Favourites. So I thought we'd go straight down to business. We'll talk about the act straight away, and then talk about the nitty gritty of 1997. So let's go. I think we just need to go straight to Stuart, really. And I'm hoping, Stuart, are we going to get a rendition?
Slovna Rajanajačica. What do?
Wheat pois, wheat pois.
Ah, 12 pois.
No, wheat. No. We all know there was one winner that year. So I've heard a rumour, Stuart, that one of your favourite entries is Norway from 1997.
One of my favourite entries, absolutely not, Tom. You got that one totally wrong. But let's talk about Norway and Tor
I blame the
Endresen.
researcher.
San Francisco by Tor Endresen. This guy has terrorised Norway for years. He has taken part in virtually every Melodi Grand Prix in Norway since taking part in Eurovision 1997, which he came dead last with Null Pois. He has also taken part in other Melodi Grand Prix. He just will not go away. He is the gift that keeps on giving. He took part in the Norwegian final back in 2015 with a duet with Elizabeth Andreasen. He's really, really popular in Norway. But when he took part with the song San Francisco, is a mix of Norwegian, a mix of English. It was a sort of a rock pop song. It had some rally to it, but the reality of it wasn't very good. And the voters chose not to vote for it, and it came last with Null Pois. What's more to be said about it, really? It wasn't very good, was it?
Oh, come on. It had a certain je ne sais pourquoi, or whatever it is. Je ne sais quoi. There we go.
Well, the good news is he's also a TV personality. He takes part in various TV shows he did before becoming a singer. So he's always got something he can go to for his later years.
It's nice to know he's got something to fall back on.
Exactly.
So let's go down to the Mediterranean. Let's talk to the lovely Jo, dressed as Şebnem from Turkey. Was this a surprise result for Turkey this in 97?
Yes, to a point. If you talk about the quality of the song and the fact that they brought their ethnic traditions that they do every year, normally that Turkey it hasn't been very well received. But this year, you know, this is a seasoned pro of a singer. She represented them last year in 96, and then comes out 97, gets third place. Gorgeous song. It's still played. It's played a lot on ESC radio at the moment. It's just an amazing song, and she sang it, you know, really well. I mean, I listened to the full show via German commentary, and even they said what a fantastic singer she was. And she certainly was. And yeah, it's wonderful. She's actually a teacher now, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
She's Şebnem Paker. So I had a little look about her. But have a listen to some of these lyrics. It's, where are you, my love? With whom are you? I couldn't dare to ask you, so listen.
Ooh.
There you go. And it's all the way through. It's very good.
And it did very well. Very, very well.
Certainly did. Absolutely brilliant.
It's claimed 3rd place. Now, closely following it in 5th place was another Mediterranean country.
Yes, and again, their best result as it stood at the time. Obviously, we know now that Cyprus got 2nd a year or so ago with Eleni. But, you know, Mana Mou, 5th place for Cyprus, Netherlands. And again, brother and sister singers on that one. I have to pronounce it. It is Hara and Andreas Konstantinou. And again, the song. Thank you. Took me a while to pronounce that. And again, some words. My sweet motherland. Lead to me your dreams, oh motherland. So there you go.
Okay. By the way,
again, very ethnic.
Joe, we just need to interrupt. Just Andy.
Oh, he's back.
It's like going from one extreme to another, isn't it? I mean,
still United Kingdom.
This is true.
Still a winner.
It is. To be fair, no. Okay, I'm going to hand it to you.
And Katrina is butcher than Jonathan King.
This is also very true here.
She also has a moustache.
Need the hair a bit as well, I think, though. You know, just sweep back a bit more. You know, you need to be able to.
Loving the shirt. Loving the shirt, Andy.
Oh yeah, now this shirt cost me £10 in a market this afternoon. £10. Hers only cost £3. I was robbed.
It's called inflation.
Inflation, though.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think it's the actual shirt. Should be in a museum, and instead it's on my back.
Well, do you know what? I take my hat off to you, imaginary hat, obviously, to you, Andy, and we'll come to you for you to talk about your favourite entries in a bit. Now, Jay was talking about, obviously, we've talked about Turkey, we've talked about Cyprus. Now, I did give you an entry to talk about as well. Now, I don't know, did anyone see 1997? Obviously, Nicholas accepted, obviously, for this bit. But after the UK won the contest, there was an Ozone special hosted by Jane Middlemas. It was screened about 3 weeks afterwards. And she had lots of little interviews. She'd obviously been in Dublin for the week. They'd done this little show. And she asked Mrs. Einstein, the Dutch entry, you know, were they trying to be the Spice Girls? And she was like, no, we are the mothers of the Spice Girls.
Yeah, I heard that. I read that that's exactly how they call themselves, the mothers of the Spice Girls, because they're, you know, not sort of young, so to speak. And obviously, the Spice Girls were a lot younger.
Mothers, yeah, more like grandmothers.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
to be honest, they sang like it at times as well. I mean, again, you know, what did they get? 22nd place?
Yeah, it was not very nice.
Yeah, and do you know what? They sang like it. The problem was that song was really awful.
Yeah, but they weren't even mothers I'd like to Eurovision.
Well, this is true, but it had a certain charm to it. I think the thing is, I think they came 22nd. I think they were on about 22nd as well, which I think didn't necessarily bode well.
Yeah, and I mean, what's it called? I mean, effectively, no one has time anymore. But you know, to me, it just had no rhythm to it. To be honest, it didn't. It sort of didn't go anywhere. It was all sort of, you know, it's very jerky. I think is the way I'm going to describe it.
Sort of ironic, isn't it, Joe? Sort of ironic. No one has time anymore, and yet they subject us to 3 minutes of that shit.
Couldn't have put it better myself there, Stuart.
It is so true, and yeah, I'm surprised they got 22nd. If I'm really honest.
Now, speaking of entries that were late on, as a wise man once said, people will vote for certain entries later on in the contest because they've just come back from the pub. Yes, I am referring to the late great Sir Terry Wogan. Now, Emily, you were there in 1997. I don't necessarily want you to talk about Iceland, but let's talk about his thighs instead.
His thighs?
The most important part.
The important part of Paul Oscar's performance being his thighs. Iceland. What did you make of the performance? What was the reaction in the hall? Can you remember?
Actually, the audience was quite square. I mean, it was quite a lot of lottery winners were there, so it wasn't particular people that were particularly into the contest. There was kind of like a great body of quite polite, well-dressed people, and then there were just like fat little pockets of fans at the sides, including us. But there must have been there was a group of about 10 people with UK flags. That was it, just at one side, which is why we keep appearing on the footage, because there weren't very many of us. And because I only went in 97 and 98, then I didn't go again till 2011, and it was so different, just the whole thing of it. So actually, Paul Oscar, it was just, it was a bit of a cheer, a bit of a light clap, but it wasn't like it would be now, where people had just been absolutely screaming the roof off. It was really quite different. It was quite funny with that one though, because I was a classroom teacher at the time, a music teacher, and I used to show the Eurovision videos all week leading up to the contest and getting people to vote. And I had to kind of, when we got to, because that was 25th in the running order, obviously, as you just said. And I had to kind of pretend that the video for that one didn't work, because I couldn't show it. It was a Church of England school. I thought, this is just not going to really work to show this, because the video was even more unsuitable. Whereas actually in 2014, when I did the same with the Polish entry, times had changed by then, and even though I only showed about a minute of it, the kids all went home and watched it anyway, and then came back the next day going, "Hey miss, we saw those Polish girls," and all this kind of thing. But yeah, in the hall on the night, Paul Oscar, I mean, we loved it. It was one of my favourites, because I thought the music's very Pet Shop Boysy, and I'd always really liked them, so it was, even without the kind of the fun of him and the aesthetics, I just really liked the song. But God, it's so long ago, I'm struggling to remember what it was like on the clapometer, but it certainly got a good cheer from our little posse. We did see Paul Oscar afterwards as well, and he did say, "Thank God for televoting." I remember him saying that afterwards.
Well, he did get 6. He did get 6 points from the United Kingdom that night, and he got 18 overall. So a third of his points came from the UK televote.
Woo!
Yay for televoting. Now, what other entries happened to tickle your fancy that year, Emily?
Well, I really liked the Spanish one, actually. That was a favourite of mine. And it was one I'd liked, when you're obviously listening to them beforehand, and it had something about it. And then on the night, it was just really lovely. There was just a really nice atmosphere about it. And there was just something kind of cute about the bloke singing it. He was a bit kind of, I don't know, he was just lovable. And the whole thing was really nice, that one. And I liked the backing vocals in it, she says, thinking back all these years ago.
But it was a good song.
Oh, it was just really sweet and kind of very authentic when you performed it. And Joe's already mentioned the Turkish entry, which also I really like that one too. And the Cypriot one, which has already been mentioned, was a good one. And those eyebrows, who could forget those eyebrows of the Cypriot? Eyebrow envy for them. And of course the UK itself. We hadn't kind of, when it's your own entry is the really popular one, and we weren't sure how it was going to do. And everyone was saying, it's got a really good chance, and we didn't want to kind of tempt fate. But that moment of her performing it, and us afterwards going, I think it was really good, and then of course winning. So that will always have a special place in my Eurovision heart.
Hey.
You're welcome.
Oh yes, Katrina, hi.
That's what I do.
There we go. Now, we've talked about a number of entries, but we haven't really dealt with the fact that Eurovision 97 was almost like old meets new. This was, you had pop and popular culture trying to kind of get through, whilst you still had countries trying to bring their ethnic sounds in. Now, one country that did bring its cool, hip vibe to the scene was Denmark.
Yes.
Oh.
So let me start this off by telling a bit of the story of how the song ended up at Eurovision. So essentially, Curly Kai, along with Chief One, who was the main writer of this song, they were very big in Denmark at this time. They are seen as some of the pioneers of like this Danish white rap music. They were really popular with the kids around this time, so they thought it would be fun to send a song into something that definitely wasn't popular with the kids, which was Dansk Melodi Grand Prix. So they sent this song in kind of as a joke, didn't really expect much of it, but here's where everything changed, because in 1997, that was the first year where televoting was introduced to Dansk Melodi Grand Prix. Now, obviously, this meant who has the televoting? Who is enjoying something like the televoting? Well, that's the young people. So with just about, I think it was with like a very tiny bit of point difference between this song and the second place, which was a more traditional Danish entry. This ended up being the winner solely because of this new introduction of the televoting. They didn't. I've seen interviews with Chief One, who wrote the song. They didn't expect to ever go to Eurovision. They didn't really ever feel like they belonged at Eurovision. But I think they had a lot of fun. And to me, you know, I feel like this is one of the most memorable entries that Denmark has ever sent, because we have been known for so many years for sending very, very safe entries. And I feel like that's what Denmark is often known for, these like very typical Danish entries. So to see something fresh and new and different, I think while it may not have done like super well at the contest, I do think it meant something for us as a Eurovision country. And I'm really glad that this actually ended up going to Eurovision.
And yeah, I mean, I liked it. I how can I put this? I was intrigued by the fact that it was about him speaking to a woman from Directory Inquiries.
Yes,
which was the description given.
Which is again an interesting topic, considering this is the kind of like youth rap music. I don't know what was going on in 1997. I don't know if this was like a regular thing that you just called to hear all the lovely voices. I don't know.
Nicholas, could you explain what Directory Inquiries is?
Well, to make it simple, it's just like you call into this number, and they can basically forward you to another number. So you call and you're like, hey, I need the number for the local doctor. Okay, we'll forward you to that. Or hey, I need the number for this business. Okay, we'll send you on to that. I don't think it's in use anymore. I don't think you can call it anymore. But it was a thing. It was very popular.
Oh, it's a bit like Telegram, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of, I guess.
Gonna send a telegram. Sorry.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh yeah.
Well off.
We're gone. We're gone.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
as the only member of the panel probably, doesn't actually remember 1997 live and uncut.
No, I don't remember it. I'm too old.
What other songs? Look, you keep on interrupting, Andy. We're just going to have to call for matron. Nicholas, what other songs have stood out to you from 1997?
Yeah, so I think looking through the songs, one of the songs that really struck me watching the show for the first time was definitely the Hungarian entry. And I say that because being from 1997 and growing up with this like late 90s, early 2000s music, when I listen to music to get nostalgic, I listen to this kind of like generic boy band music that was very popular around that time, because it's what I grew up with. It was some of the first music that I heard. So I think that's why VIP from Hungary really resonated with me, because it's a very typical 1997 song. It's very much reminiscent of this time. It's Hungary trying to sound something that maybe isn't their sound, but it's something that was definitely very popular around that time. And I think this contest in general, with the visuals and everything, is such a great time capsule of what the late 90s were, and the things that I grew up on. So that's why I thought it was really fun to listen to.
Hey, I have to say, Hungary was one of my favorite entries that year. Not as popular in my mind as the other boy band entry, which came from Sweden.
Oh yes.
But that was special. Although I still remember Terry Wogan interrupted it, because literally there is one moment in the Swedish performance where the central guy leans on the shoulders and Terry Wogan just literally starts speaking and goes, I just have to say, this is my favorite bit. I'm like, you're ruining the song.
Well, it's definitely like it's a very typical Swedish entry. I feel like a lot of the entries that were this year were also like very typical entries from the countries, with a few exceptions, of course. I also really liked the song from Estonia. I think that was a really beautiful song, and I think even today, I think that song could do well. It's such a timeless and wonderful piece, and also I think Turkey bringing something that's very much them and actually, you know, doing all right with it. I think that's really great.
Estonia, in my mind, was underrated that year.
Yeah, definitely.
She brought something very special to the stage, I thought, with her song. Coming 8th overall, which was, you know, not bad, but, you know, I think these days probably you would have hoped for top 5, I think, with that.
I think it's interesting because it definitely, like, I think getting a top 10 finish was what made Estonia think, okay, maybe we should take this seriously. And obviously we saw them winning in 2001, which is the first contest that I remember watching.
Hey, now Italy were missing in action for many years, returned in 97, had a few years off, and then took an even longer break, finally reappearing in 2011. Now, part of it, I have heard a vicious rumour, is that they may have had sour grapes because they thought they should have won in 1997 with Fiumi di Parole. But what does Stuart think?
Yeah, so that's quite the rumour, isn't it? That they pulled out through throwing their dummies out of the pram. Not so. In fact, what actually happened, that the broadcaster Rai for Italy, the broadcasts the Eurovision Song Contest, at the time suddenly realised they came very close to winning, and realised that in actual fact Eurovision isn't popular in Italy. So what do we do if we win? We have to pay lots of money out when people actually only want to watch Sanremo. So what actually happened was Rai decided, we don't need Eurovision, we're going to pull out until 2011 when we'll change our mind and come back. That's what really happened, Tom.
But should they have won, Stuart?
No, I think another song should have won, which I'll come to in a minute, but it was a fantastic duet. They were a fantastic duet, a dramatic ballad, River of Words, Fiumi di Parole. They're a couple, they're actually married now, they've been together forever. It was beautifully performed, and yeah, it's got its fans. It really was a beautiful song, performed really well, and it really suited the stage as well. It was a really good effort from Italy. But like many of Italy's performances over the years, they just miss out, don't they?
They do. I mean, to be honest, I think it was put between the Dutch and the Spanish entries. You know, was I unhappy? No, because I was too busy celebrating the UK's victory. There we go. Now, Stuart, obviously, we know you couldn't vote for the UK in 1997. You had to vote for something else. Now, Terry Wogan said once upon a time that if the late great Dick Emery wasn't dead, he'd swear it was him in drag. Was it?
Look, Tom, there can be only one winner of Eurovision 1997, and despite being British and delighted that we won Eurovision, because I'm not confident we'll ever win Eurovision ever again, I still believe the winner of Eurovision 1997 was one Alla Pugacheva, the Queen of Russia. And why do I think she should have won? She's had over 500 hits in Russia, in Russian, in English, in German over the years. She's sold tons and tons and tons of LPs. She is probably one of the biggest stars in Eurovision, alongside the likes of Celine Dion, ABBA, and Engelbert Humperdinck. Only joking.
Oh,
but what about the song itself?
Blow.
What about the song itself? It's another dramatic ballad. It builds. She's singing about. In fact, actually, she's singing about a desire to overcome struggles. It's a really powerful song. And did you know the song's actually written for a man? And was going to be sung by a man. It's going to be sung by Valery Mladze. But he actually went ill prior to the selection process. I wonder why. And she stepped in and performed the song. And lo and behold, she's going to Eurovision. And she did cop a strop after, saying that she should have won.
Well, do you know what? This was one of my favourite entries on the night. But when I look back, now, I have to say, do any of my ESC Fan TV colleagues watch EastEnders? Has anyone seen some of the choice dresses that Sharon Mitchell, played by Letitia Dean, chooses to wear? It's a bit like mutton dressed as lamb. And what I'm suggesting here is that maybe she may be taking her inspiration from Alla Pugacheva, because I mean, what on earth was going on with that dress or dress?
What's wrong with the dress? What's wrong with it?
Well, it was quite short, from what I remember.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on downstairs, Tom. Anyway, enough about all that. Can I just say, she's actually 70, and when she married Philip Kirkorov, he was actually 18 years younger than her.
And how much younger than her is he now?
She's been married 5 times, can you believe? I mean, she is the Russian equivalent of Elizabeth Taylor.
Wow, that is crazy. Now, Andy, you've been conspicuous by absence. I suppose, really, given the fact that having done your little faux pas with the dressing up, what I really was supposed to say at the start, was as Terry Wogan did in 1998. As an experienced Retrovision host, have you any advice for me when hosting such an event, even though I'm halfway through?
Oh, well, you're halfway through and you're doing very well indeed. And all I would say is have a drink at song number 9.
Hey, well, it must be nearly song number 9.
Well, let's say it is.
Over to you.
Oh, me? Oh, right, okay.
We'll all have a drink then.
My drink's over there.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm going to talk about a couple of young women. France, as always, seemed to send a young girl singing a French ballad, and Sentiment Songs was remarkable by its nondescriptness, to be perfectly honest. I can't think of anything positive to say about the song, other than somehow it managed to come 7th, and the girl had magnificent eyebrows.
Well, yes, there is that. Can you hum us a barbo?
No, I'm sorry, I haven't listened to it since 1997. I watched it without the sound on, which didn't really help. I know it was it's just there. France wasn't trying in those days. They tried very hard at the beginning of the 90s, but after that they just they sort of sod it.
Was 97 the last time your lips touched a fanny, Andy?
What an outrageous thing to say. But speaking on behalf of Katrina, I would say not.
Now, you said you were talking about two girls.
Oh yeah, okay. So that one was a bit rubbish, but Estonia, wow. I mean, should have won had it not been for Katrina, and possibly had it not been for Paul Oscar. Beautiful song. It was the second time in the contest for Maria Luis. She debuted in 1996, where she came 5th or 6th, singing a very beautiful little song. She came back in 97 and she'd had a makeover. She was wearing black, she'd had her hair done, and she sang a very, very strong ballad. She had a recording contract in America and she was hoping to make it big. This was meant to be her big break, and actually I think she was one of the favourites going into the contest. She did a really good job, but she only came 7th, and I don't know why.
Well, and I hear a rumour, Andy, that you've actually got the album from that time as well.
Oh yeah, well, I used to buy everything I could lay my hands on in those days. I've got the album, I've got her 1996 single, which she sung in English. The words were a bit less said about the words, the better. But yes, the album was called First in Line.
I bought that as well.
Yeah,
I've got that.
It's a collector's item.
Well,
Is it?
Yeah, it'll be up on eBay later.
No, that's Stuart's next cruise paid for.
I have no idea what I've done with it, but I definitely bought it. It was a really good album.
Well, I'm glad there's one less on eBay then. Let's just put the price of mine up.
Well, I liked the English version of the Estonian entry. Hold on to love.
Hold on to love. Dun, 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 dun. Yes. It got 10 points from the UK.
I did, and I thoroughly well deserved 10 points. Now, guys, we've talked about your favourites. I feel it's only fair I make you listen to my favourites. I've already mentioned Sweden, but I've got to give Austria a special mention as well.
What?
Oh, One step forward, then back zurück. Do 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 do. Oh, come on! That coat was amazing. The hair was stunning. I mean, Bettina Soriat was just on point. I was gutted for her when she did so badly, because I really thought that had a certain Eurovision vibe to it. One of my favourite entries of the night. Now, whilst that may be one of my favourites, one entry that we've never talked about so far, but leads us very nicely on to our next round, is Ireland. And this is called the round Never Underestimate. As Wogan would say, you can never underestimate Ireland in this contest, not when they've won it so many times. Let's talk about the job RTE actually did with the staging. I mean, it was obviously, you know, a Radio Rental's dream job. But, I mean, what did we think? Let's go to Nicholas. I mean, you're looking at it through, obviously, a nostalgic view. The whole staging of Ireland 97.
Well, like I said earlier, this is the perfect time capsule of the late 90s. I think this, you know, being someone who's grown up with some of the more modern contests where it's all about LED floors, LED backdrops, LED this and that, I think it's so interesting to look back at these old contests that actually had, I would say, more of a personality to them. And I think 97 is one of the contests that has the most personality to it, with the staging, with the whole like futuristic sci-fi computer graphics postcards and everything. I think it certainly hasn't aged very well. You know, looking at this contest, you can clearly tell when it was from, but at the same time, I think it's such a quirky and interesting character. Obviously, you know, Ireland were running out of ideas at this point. They'd been hosting it so many times, they had to do something different. So I see why they did this, and I'm sure the smaller stage and everything also meant they could cut a bit of cost so it wouldn't ruin RTE. But it's interesting. I think it's interesting and fun to look back at.
Now, Emily, what did you actually see in the arena when we had the postcards? Obviously, the postcards that we saw, we had these lovely cameos from different artists and things. Bobby Socks made an appearance. Cliff Richard made an appearance. What were you seeing in the arena? Did you actually get to see those postcards? Were they flashing up on the TVs on the stage or anything like that?
Yes, they had them on two big screens either side of the stage. They came up. But of course, we did that. I mean, I think you've all been to Eurovision at different points, haven't you? You know, you end up watching them running on and off with pianos and props and whatever else. So it's that bit that you're watching thinking, well, I won't see this again. I can watch the screens later when I rewatch it back. But they definitely had something up, because I remember seeing various people, like you just mentioned, coming up and us sort of clocking it, but watching the stage.
Now, one person that did make a cameo that night was one Celine Dion. Before Titanic, I hasten to add, because Titanic comes out about a year later. Stuart, do you reckon we would have got, or say we, do you reckon RTE would have actually got Celine Dion to make an appearance on there had she been at the height of Titanic fame?
Oh, it's a really good question. I'd like to think so. Yeah, you think of Eurovision outside of fandom, you think of Celine Dion and ABBA, don't you? Yeah, they're and maybe Cliff Richard. They're the three big names that everyone goes to that's not really a fan that wants to try and hold a conversation about Eurovision. You're right. She was just entering her famedom at that point in time. Probably not. Is probably the truth of the answer, but let's assume she would, because she's a good old person, is Celine, and you can go and watch her at Caesar's Palace for £100 a ticket.
Yeah.
Ooh. I think I'll pass.
Can I tell you some Eurovision trivia about Celine Dion?
Obviously, we love Eurovision trivia.
Yeah, well, so when she had her first big hit, when she had her first big hit in the UK, which was Think Twice, there was a Eurovision connection with that. the songwriter for Think Twice and for a number of our other big hits was Andy Hill. And Andy Hill wrote Making Your Mind Up. So she does have an ongoing Eurovision connection.
Nice.
Now, obviously, Stuart got the difficult question. Andy's come up with the trivia. Obviously, Emily was there. Joe, if Celine hadn't have made that cameo on the TV screen, what other former Eurovision winner would you have loved to have seen pop up in those postcards? Yeah.
Well, I was going to say ABBA, but ABBA were there. Or two of the boys were. Maybe the ABBA girls, because they weren't there, were they?
Well, she's out of hiding now, so maybe she'd do it.
So it'd been good to see those two, though.
Yeah,
definitely the girls.
ABBA girls. And if you couldn't have got the ABBA girls, who would you have gone for? It's a tough question, isn't it?
It is.
I put you right on the spot, and to think I told you that Stuart had the difficult question.
No idea.
Never mind. We'll come back to you. Now, whilst we're on about never underestimating Ireland, what did we make of Eurovision's attempts to appear contemporary and now? Obviously, we've got the big inventions of the time. We've got televoting. We've got a boy band doing the interval act. Obviously, Boyzone being one of the very few popular music groups to actually have done a Eurovision interval act. I mean, did it work? Was this like a sign of the times? What do we think, Stuart?
Well, look, this is my favourite Eurovision of all time. So, you know, I've sat through 30 odd Eurovisions, and this is my favourite by some distance. And that is not in any way, shape, or form to do with Katrina winning for the UK. It's due to the quality of songs, the events, the staging, the diversity of music. I just love the whole show. I'll tell you what I did. Interesting point around the staging. I found the screens really creepy. You know, all the sort of like TV screens everywhere. I found it all a bit creepy. You know, you kind of had Katrina popping up from behind one of the screens, and then she's on another screen. It was all a bit. I don't know if anyone ever watched the Sharon Stone film Slither.
Yes.
It's a bit like that. I kind of visualised somebody sat there watching 100 different screens of different participants in their changing rooms, preparing to go onto the Eurovision stage. That's what it reminded me of. Bit creepy.
A bit creepy. What about you, Emily? Was it creepy for you being there?
Definitely not. Of all the words I would use to describe that night, creepy wouldn't even come into it. But I remember at the time just thinking it was really up to date, really modern. We just felt it. I don't know. It just really worked. And it's funny seeing it now because obviously it looks really dated. You know, revisiting it 22 years on and seeing all the kind of like Boyzone, the outfits they were and their backing dancers, all that sort of stuff, which seemed really, oh yeah, this is really edgy at the time. And now it does look really dated, but it is. So I do remember thinking the screens were a bit distracting. I do remember that, and kind of, you know, when you're there and you sort of think, oh, I hope they get good camera angles, and I don't know, just we felt the little screens were a bit faffy on camera, but yeah, it was overall, it was definitely a nice vibe on stage.
It was, and I think one of the things, and it's something the BBC obviously didn't take heed of the following year, was that Ireland had obviously worked out 4 years, you know, took them 4 years to actually work this one out, that when the winning act actually, you know, wins and you need to get them to the stage, have someone ready and waiting. Because one of the memories I have is literally they've got Ronan Keating poised in that green room, grabbing Katrina, sweeping her up, and literally pulling her onto the stage. She has no opportunity to go off and put her Jean-Paul Gaultier or whatever it is on.
But on the other hand, Kimberly Roux couldn't get onto the stage to receive the Composers Award the security didn't know who he was. So he was the only one of Katrina and the Waves that wasn't there at the end of the show. That was a shame.
This is
was
very
he
true.
with them?
No,
Actually,
he tried to go up to receive the winner's prize, but he wasn't allowed.
But he went back on for his position as lead guitarist in Katrina and the Waves.
Because there were 7 of them, or there were 5 of them in the group, and they needed 2 backing singers. So he wasn't performing that night.
Really? Because I thought there was only 4. Wow.
No, there were 5 in the group. Kimberly Rue couldn't take his place because of the 2 backing singers, so he didn't actually perform.
Now, we've got 2 rounds left, guys, and we've got about 5 or so minutes to cover them in. Now, are you ready? Right.
Okay.
Penultimate round. Where were you when? It's got to be said. I mean, up there with JFK, hearing that Michael Jackson's died and everything else. Where were you? Obviously, Emily, we know where you were. But, you know, where were you when the UK won the Eurovision Song Contest in 1997? Stuart.
Well, I was sat in my lounge with my mum and dad, watching Eurovision as I had for the previous 4 years, because I started in '93. Yeah, at that point, UK was doing okay. '93 we were second. '94 we sent Francis Ruffel, and that was a really good song. Yeah, well, yeah, but it was a good song. It was a current song at that time. It felt very current. Then we sent Love City Groove, didn't we, in '95?
I blocked that one out.
Then '96 we sent Gina G, and then things really kind of rocketed. So look, we've had some really good years, and then '97 it felt like, well, this is where the UK should be. We've won all these times before, and now we've won it again. Yeah, it felt right, but then you travel forward in time so many years, and you realise just how important that victory was.
Very true. Andy, where were you?
Well, I was also sitting at home with my best friend, who I introduced to Eurovision in 1973, and we had no hopes that Katrina was going to win. The song wasn't doing very well in the charts. The recording of the song was as flat as a pancake. When it started, we went, "Oh, that's a bit loud." They've turned the guitars up, and we weren't quite sure. And then when it got to the chorus, and there was that trumpet, we said, "It's won," and it did.
Hey. And
it was all down to the arrangement of the song.
It probably was, and I think that's true of a lot of Eurovision winners, isn't it?
And the green shirt, don't forget the green shirt.
And the green shirt cost them £3 from a market in Cambridge, I believe.
Yeah. That just clinched it.
Obviously, to mention, by the way, just the Ozone special with Jane Middlemas. I think I've mentioned that.
Did it show her what she was going to wear? It was like some sort of
sofa,
fabric.
I think was what she described it as.
Yeah,
they were dressing her up as a sofa. I think she basically turned around and said that was it. She was just going to wear what she'd worn for rehearsals. Joe, where were you?
I was at home when I lived in West Bromwich with my first ex-husband having a go at me for actually having Eurovision on every single year because he hates it with passion. So I think he sort of went to the pub or something in the end, and I sat on my own watching it peace and quiet with my 2 black Labrador dogs.
Hey, well, yay for the doggies. And I can't help but feel 22 years on, Eurovision has won out, and it was the right choice.
I'm still here.
Exactly. Where was I? I was at home with my parents, I'll be honest, and essentially making lots of trips to the toilet because I was so nervous that we were going to win. I just remember getting up and down like a yo-yo. Oh, if only I'd discovered alcohol before then. Now, the final round. And finally, is there one thing from 1997 you would like to see brought forward to 2019 or 2020 as it will be? Do we feel that there's an element of the contest that maybe needs to be brought back? It's lost its way slightly. What do we think? Nicholas?
Yes. There is one thing, and I think I briefly mentioned it before when I talked about the staging. You know, one thing that I would love to see for 2020 is a stage that has some elements of props to it, a stage that you know is memorable, that isn't just, oh, we're just gonna slap LEDs everywhere, because that's what I mainly miss watching back some of the older contests. I miss when, you know, you could fire up a video from whatever Eurovision year and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's from that year because they had that staging. I feel it's a shame that LEDs have taken over so much, and it seems like you know, people only see good performances if you have just like a giant LED backdrop and that's the only thing you see on stage. I like it when the stage designers are creative. They get to make something that feels like a whole experience that ties in together with the graphics, with the postcards and everything. I think this contest is a great example that really did that really well.
Excellent point. Emily, what would you like to see?
Well, apart from the obvious thing of the winner being from the UK would be nice, I'm going to go with the live instruments thing. I used to love seeing the live instruments, and that's just not obviously specific to 97, but it does kind of answer the question. For me, yeah, that would be the thing, where people are actually playing live again. And I don't mean by that not having any backing tracks, but them having the option to do it. So that's
absolutely.
my little bit.
Andy.
I didn't know you were going to ask this question, so I'm not prepped.
Well, I wanted to spring a few surprises. What can I say?
Well, sprung they are. I would bring back having a random 5 countries having televotes and everybody else voting by jury.
Oh.
And,
Yes.
and I'd like to choose the 5 countries that would have the televotes as well.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, we would have just all the ex-USSR countries. They could do televotes, and everybody else would have juries. It'd be fantastic.
That would. Do you know what? I would pay to watch that contest. I think that would be a brilliant exercise. Joe.
Certainly not that. And no. I mean, I agree with Emily in a lot of ways. I think it's all down to the live orchestra and the instruments, really. I think there was something different about 97 in the fact that they had to, if they were pretending to play an instrument on the stage, it had to be an instrument that was in the backing track. You know, it couldn't have been one, you know, sort of anything that wasn't included. So to be honest, it'd be nice to get the orchestra back. It'd be nice to get live instruments on stage. If they're a band, it'd be great to have the band actually playing and not miming. And that's a big thing for me. I think they need to bring that back.
Okay, and finally,
Finally,
Stuart.
So I've got a really good one and a really great suggestion for the BBC to consider for 2020. How about the UK send an actual band?
Yay!
Hey!
Yeah,
You know what? I would love to see the UK send, and this may shock some people, either rap, R&B, or a band. Music that's actually current in the UK charts. Indie bands, rock bands, don't care. Send something which actually means something about the UK music scene as it is today.
Which just means something in general, which isn't just something that's been thrown together at a small songwriting camp, something that means something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's no need for Swedes or no offense, Nicholas, or Danish songwriters.
It's cool. I agree.
Infiltrate. Yeah, I know we've had this conversation before, but you know, to infiltrate the UK Eurovision scene, we've got some fantastic bands. There's a little thing called BBC Introducing, which I pretty much guarantee there will be bands out there that would absolutely kill for the opportunity to play live to the size of audience that Eurovision brings.
Children of the Universe is still one of my favorite entries ever. It's so good.
Yeah, so that's what I'd like us to do.
That was written by a Dane.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Half of it was written by a Dane, and half of it was written by Molly, and they stuck it together, and that's what the result was.
Well then, now I know that.
There we go. Andy, you are just our Eurovision trivia person in general,
You
aren't you?
are. Good going, Katrina.
Can I contribute something else as well, Tom?
You may.
Follow us on YouTube, in the chat room, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook,
Twitter.
iTunes, Twitter, Snitcher, Snatcher,
Grindr.
Yeah, go follow us on Grindr.
Don't forget.
Do you know what? I like it. The training's working. We're getting there. It's Stitcher, not Snitcher.
But don't leave it until the last minute, eh?
Don't leave it till the last minute. By all means, do click the like and subscribe buttons. Do make sure that you comment in the chat room. Do make sure that you're following us on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, and so on, because there is so much more stuff coming up after we've all had a summer break. Because I do believe summer is upon us. I know I'm, last day of term vibes for me. It's like, made it. Stuart's going to go off on his holidays. He's going to get a tan. He'll be performing on the Starlight. He's going to be performing on the Starlight Express, his Alla Pugacheva tribute act, coming to good cruise ships near you. And everyone else is going to have a fantastic time. Now, if you're watching this and you haven't watched Eurovision 97, I suggest you watch it now. You will see some fantastic songs on there. But from me, obviously, it's good night. From the panel, thank you very much, guys.
Love.
Thank you very much.
In every
Bye.
corner of the world.
Have a fantastic summer, and we will see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.